have not been able to leave home. Standing here, I still feel that I am visiting one of the flood-affected areas of Sindh and Balochistan of my country. No words can describe the shock we are living through or how the face of the country lies transformed. I have come to explain firsthand the scale and magnitude of this climate catastrophe that has pushed 1/3 of my country underwater in a superstorm that no one has seen in one's living memory. For 40 days and 40 nights, a biblical flood poured down on us, smashing centuries of weather records, challenging everything we knew about disaster and how to manage it. Even today, huge swaths of the country are still underwater, submerged in an ocean of human suffering. In this ground zero of climate change, 33 million people, including women and children, are now at high risk from health hazards. With 650,000 women giving birth in makeshift tarpaulins. More than 1,500 of my people have been gone from this world in this great flood, including over 400 children. Far more are in peril from disease and malnutrition. As we speak, millions of climate migrants are still looking for dry land to pitch their tents on, with heartbreaking losses to their families, their futures, and their livelihoods gone for long times to come. Early estimates suggest that more than 13,000 kilometers of metal roads have been damaged, over 370 bridges have been swept away, 1 million homes have been destroyed, and another million damaged. More than 1 million farm animals have been killed. 4 million acres of crops have been washed away, stripping the people of their breadbasket and damage of an unimaginable scale. Mr. President, Pakistan has never seen a more stark and devastating example of the impact of global warming. Life in Pakistan has changed forever. I have visited personally and spent time in every corner of my devastated country. People in Pakistan ask, why? Why has this happened to them? When global warming rips apart whole families and an entire country at this ferocious speed, it is time to ask why, and time to ask not what can be done, but what must be done. The undeniable truth is that this calamity has not been triggered by anything we have done. Our glaciers are melting fast, our forests are burning, and our heat waves have crossed 53 degrees Celsius, making us the hottest place on the planet. And now, Mr. President, now we live through an unprecedented monster monsoon. It is literally a monsoon on steroids, as the UN Secretary General described it most befittingly. It is on steroids. One thing is very clear: what happened in Pakistan will not stay in Pakistan. As the Secretary General so candidly says, hotspots like Pakistan fall in the 10 most climate vulnerable list of countries, but emit less than 1% of the greenhouse gases that are burning our planet. It is therefore entirely reasonable to expect some approximation of justice for this loss and damage, not to mention building back better with resilience and strength. Clearly, the time for talk about action has passed. At this point, I am profoundly grateful that the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres visited Pakistan, where he spent time with climate refugees, with mothers and children in the tents, and repeatedly assured us of his support and assistance. At this point, I want to thank each and every one of the countries that have sent help to Pakistan and their representatives to Pakistan to stand in solidarity with us in our most trying hour. On behalf of my nation, I once again express my sincerest appreciation to all of them. Excellencies, the impacts on the health and wealth of my country are beyond calculation at this point. So my real worry is about the next stage of this challenge, when the cameras would have gone or left this August Assembly and the story just shifts away to conflicts like the Ukraine. My question is, will we be left alone, high and dry, to cope with a crisis which we did not create, not of our doing? Where from and how to begin with to rehabilitate and reconstruct after the rescue and relief effort, which is still going on for 12 long weeks. For many of the lives we have saved, the future is dimmed by new fragility, lost homes, decimated livelihoods, deluged croplands, permanent food insecurity, and exposure to uncertain futures. Some 11 million people will be pushed further below the poverty line, while others will drift to cramped urban shelters, leaving little room for climate-smart rebuilding. Mr. President, for now, we have mobilized all available resources at our domain, squeezing resources from left and right towards the national relief effort, and repurposed all budget priorities, including development funds, to the rescue and first-order needs of millions, cash transfers to the most affected 4 million women, heads of household, had begun weeks ago via our Social Security program, the Benazir Income Support Program. It has been established in the name of former late Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto, and her son is our foreign minister today. 70 billion rupees, or almost $300 million from our own pocket we are spending on this program. But at this point, the gap between our urgent needs and available resources is increasing by the day and amplified by the sheer unprecedented scale of this disaster. Our manpower and resources are totally overwhelmed and overstretched. The question to raise here is quite simple. Why are my people paying the price of such high global warming through no fault of ours? We have no contribution in this. Nature has unleashed her fury on Pakistan without looking at our carbon footprint, which is next to nothing. Our actions did not contribute to this. The dual cost of global inaction and climate injustice are having a crippling effect on both our treasury and our people right here, right now, over there. Mr. President, this is going to be a long haul, and under these most trying circumstances, hope is the best enemy of darkness. And Pakistanis are known to be exceptionally resilient people. For my part, I am fully committed, fully geared to fighting this battle for our survival in the tents, in the trenches with my people until we have rebuilt Pakistan to face the growing challenges of this century. It is high time we took a pause from the preoccupations of the 20th century to return to the challenges of the 21st century. The entire definition of national security has changed today, and unless the leaders of the world come together to act and act now on an agreed common agenda, there will be no earth to fight wars over. Nature will be fighting back, and for that, humanity is no match at all. Mr. President, Pakistan's urgent priority right now is to ensure a rapid economic growth and lift millions out of poverty and hunger. To enable any such policy momentum, Pakistan needs a stable external environment. We look for peace with all our neighbors, including India. Sustainable peace and stability in South Asia, however, remains contingent upon a just and lasting solution of the Jammu and Kashmir dispute. At the heart of this long-standing dispute lies the denial of the inalienable right of the Kashmiri people to self-determination. India's illegal and unilateral actions of 5th August 2019 to change the internationally recognized disputed status of Jammu and Kashmir and to alter the demographic structure of the occupied territory further undermined the prospects of peace and inflamed regional tensions. India's ruthless campaign of repression against Kashmiris has continued to grow in scale and intensity. In pursuit of this heinous goal, New Delhi has ramped up its military deployments in occupied Jammu and Kashmir to 900,000 troops, thus making it the most militarized zone in the world. The serial brutalization of Kashmiris takes many forms: extrajudicial killings, incarceration, custodial torture and death, indiscriminate use of force, deliberate targeting of Kashmiri youth with pellet guns, and collective punishments imposed on entire communities. In a classic settler colonial project, India is seeking to turn the Muslim-majority Jammu and Kashmir into a Hindu territory through illegal demographic changes. Millions of fake domicile certificates have been issued to non-Kashmiris. Kashmiri land and properties are being seized. Electoral districts have been gerrymandered, and over 2.5 million non-Kashmiri illegal voters fraudulently registered. All this is in blatant violation of Security Council's resolutions and international law, particularly the 4th Geneva Convention. For our part, the Pakistani people have always stood by our Kashmiri brothers and sisters in complete solidarity and will continue to do so no matter what until their right to self-determination is fully realized in accordance with the relevant UN Security Council resolutions. I assure the World Forum and this August platform that we in Pakistan remain consistent in our commitment to peace in South Asia. India must take credible steps to create enabling environment for constructive engagement. We are neighbors and we are there forever. The choice is ours, whether we live in peace or keep on fighting with each other. We have had 3 wars from 1947 onwards, and as a consequence, only miseries, poverty, unemployment increase on both sides. It's now up to us to resolve our differences, our problems, our issues, like peaceful neighbors through peaceful negotiations and discussions, and save our scarce resources for promoting education and health and employment to millions of people, young boys and girls on both sides of divide, and not waste our resources in buying more ammunition and trying to promote tension in this area. I think it's high time that India understands this message loud and clear, that both countries are armed to the teeth. War is not an option. It is not an option. It is not an option. Only peaceful dialogue can resolve these issues so that the world become more peaceful in times to come. Mr. President, Afghanistan today presents a unique challenge. 30 million Afghans are left without a functional economy. And banking system that allows ordinary Afghans to make a living, to be able to build a better future. Pakistan would also like to see Afghanistan, which is at peace with itself and the world, and which respects and nurtures all its citizens without regard to gender, ethnicity, and religion. Pakistan is working to encourage respect for the rights of Afghan girls and women to education and work. Yet, at this point, isolating the Afghan interim government could aggravate the suffering of the Afghan people who are already destitute. Constructive engagement and economic support are more likely to secure a positive response. A peaceful, prosperous, and connected Afghanistan in our collective interest. As a neighbor, Pakistan has a vital stake in peace and stability in Afghanistan. We have led the humanitarian efforts to help our Afghan brothers and sisters. We must avoid another civil war, rising terrorism, drug trafficking, or new refugees, which none of Afghanistan's neighbors are in a position to accommodate. Pakistan urges the international community to respond in a positive way to the UN Secretary General's appeal for $4.2 billion in humanitarian and economic assistance to Afghanistan. Release Afghanistan's financial reserves, essential to revive its banking system. Pakistan shares the key concern of the international community regarding the threat posed by the major terrorist groups operating from Afghanistan, especially ISIL-K and Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, as well as Al-Qaeda, ETIM, and IMU. They all need to be dealt with effectively and comprehensively, with the support and cooperation of the interim Afghan authorities. In turn, the international community should address Afghanistan's dire humanitarian needs. Mr. President, Pakistan strongly condemns terrorism in all its forms and shades and manifestations. Terrorism does not have a religion, ladies and gentlemen. It is based on dogma, fueled by poverty, unemployment, deprivation, injustice, and ignorance, and fanned by vested interests. Pakistan is the principal victim of terrorism. Over the last 2 decades, we have suffered more than 80,000 casualties and over $150 billion in economic losses due to terrorist attacks. Our armed forces, with the support of our people, mothers, traders, students, teachers, engineers, doctors, have broken the back of terrorism within Pakistan, yet we continue to suffer terrorist attacks from across our borders, sponsored and financed by our regional adversary. We are determined to defeat such cross-border terrorism. And I must say loud and clear that the amount of sacrifices Pakistan has made to defeat terrorism over the period of time has been unprecedented in the contemporary history of Pakistan. I tell often to my friends, if you see somebody, a mother or a child or a boy limping on the streets of Pakistan, maybe he was a victim of terrorists years back. That is the kind of sacrifice Pakistan has paid. Our generals, our soldiers, our doctors, mothers, teachers, students, and traders, they all paid their lives for Pakistan's well-being and defeated terrorism. And this peace which was restored back in Pakistan after great sacrifices is not only for Pakistan, it is a peace for global countries and global community. And we are very proud of it. And this is the biggest manifestation of our commitment, our concern, and our continued efforts to defeat terrorism wherever it is. Mr. President, Islamophobia is a global phenomenon. Since 9/11, suspicion and fear of Muslims and discrimination against them have escalated to epidemic proportions. The officially sponsored campaign of oppression against India's over 200 million Muslims is the worst manifestation of Islamophobia. They are subjected to discriminatory laws and policies, hijab bans, attacks on mosques, and lynchings by Hindu mobs. I am particularly concerned by the calls for genocide against India's Muslims by some extremist groups. Earlier this year, this assembly adopted a landmark resolution introduced by Pakistan on behalf of the OIC, designating 15th March as the International Day to combat Islamophobia. It's my sincere and ardent hope that this should lead to concrete measures by the UN and member states to combat Islamophobia and promote interfaith harmony. Mr. President, Pakistan is deeply concerned by the numerous conflicts across the Middle East, including in Syria and Yemen. We support all possible efforts to promote their peaceful resolutions. We call on Israel to put an immediate end to the blatant use of force and flagrant violations of human rights of the Palestinian people and the repeated desecration of the holy Al-Aqsa Mosque. The only just, comprehensive, and lasting solution of the Palestinian question is the acceptance of a viable, independent, and contiguous Palestinian state with the pre-1967 borders and Al-Quds Al-Sharif as its capital. Mr. President, the Security Council and the General Assembly must be empowered to play their respective roles under the UN Charter. The Security Council must be expanded by adding 11 new non-permanent members to make it more representative, democratic, transparent, effective, and accountable. Adding new permanent members will paralyze the Council's decision-making, enlarge its representational deficit, and create new centers of privilege in violation of principle of sovereign equality of member states. The nations of the world must step back from the precipice. We must restore peace in Europe, avoid a war in Asia, and resolve festering conflicts across the world. We must revive the vision which created the United Nations, a vision which is often blurred by national interest and hegemonic designs. Pakistan is a partner for peace. But, Mr. President, peace can only be ensured and guaranteed when rights of communities who have been suffering over decades and subjugated over decades get their freedom, earn their freedom, and are respected. In this behalf, before I conclude, Mr. President, I would once again repeat at the cost of repetition that we want to have peace with India, but long-lasting, enduring peace can only be ensured and guaranteed through a just and fair solution of Kashmir, providing rights to the people of Kashmir under UN Charter, according to Security Council resolutions, the right of self-determination, and I will be most forthcoming to sit down then and talk to our Indian counterparts to pave the way forward for future so that our generations do not suffer, so that we spend our resources on mitigating miseries, on building structures to face these floods and outbursts of clouds. We are developing societies. We don't have unlimited resources. We must deploy our resources for the well-being of the people, for our children, for their promotion, for their empowerment, for their employment, for health, for education, and make Pakistan, and of course other developing societies must find their own place in community of nations through hard work, untiring efforts and sacrifice. That is the only way forward. Therefore, we will work with all those committed to the United Charter's principles to restore the vision which created the United Nations and to equip this organization with the capacity to preserve global peace and promote universal prosperity. I thank you.
От имени Ассамблеи хочу поблагодарить премьер-министра Исламской Республики Пакистан за только что сделанное заявление и прошу службу протокола проводить его превосходительство.
वज़ीर-ए-आज़म मोहम्मद शहबाज शरीफ अक़वाम मुत्तहिदा की जनरल असम्बली के 17वें इजलास से खिताब कर रहे थे। वज़ीर-ए-आज़म मोहम्मद शहबाज शरीफ ने